My father escaped prison. My brother escaped responsibility, and I spent 15 years paying for both.
Until the age of 15, my life looked like something that could never break. We lived far from the noise of big cities, in a quiet rural area where people measured success not by how loud you were, but by how steady your life seemed. Our house was not extravagant, but it carried a quiet confidence. Bills were paid, futures were planned. Tomorrow did not feel dangerous. My father worked as an accountant at a large corporation. He was not a man of many words, but numbers followed him everywhere. He believed structure was safety, that discipline could protect a family from chaos. My mother stayed home. She believed her responsibility was not money, but peace. She held the family together in ways no one ever noticed. I had an older brother, an older sister, and then there was me, the youngest, the protected one. At school, I excelled. Teachers trusted me. I was the student they expected to succeed, the one whose future felt obvious. Back then, I believed life rewarded effort. I believed adults always knew what they were doing. I believed families were unbreakable. I was wrong about all three. The collapse did not begin with shouting or sirens. It began with silence. When I was 15, my father stopped sleeping. His phone stayed face down on the table. His shoulders sank. His voice lost authority. I thought adults simply got tired. Then one evening, my parents sat us down. My sister was already grown. My brother looked annoyed. I remember my father's hands trembling as he spoke. He had made mistakes, not small ones, illegal ones. For years, he had manipulated financial records at work, not because we were struggling, not because we needed more, but because he believed he could control the system. When the investigation came, prison was unavoidable, unless everything we had disappeared. Our savings, our property, our future. To avoid prison, my father borrowed enormous amounts of money, loans with crushing interest, desperate agreements made under fear. He walked free, but our life collapsed. Stress aged my father overnight. His health declined. His strength faded. His authority dissolved. My mother tried to hold us together, but peace cannot survive pressure forever. My sister left. She had a family of her own. My brother stayed, but he stayed without carrying anything. No responsibility, no support, just presence without contribution. Slowly, without anyone saying it out loud, the burden slid toward me. By the time I turned 18, debt collectors did not care how old I was. They did not care that I had never signed a single document. They only cared that someone needed to pay. My brother avoided discussions. My father avoided reality. So I became the solution, not because I was strong, because I was available. I left home, not to chase dreams, but to run from collapse. Leaving was not brave. It was lonely. The first day abroad stripped me of every illusion. Long shifts, cold rooms, foreign language, no comfort. Surviving was not heroic, it was humiliating. Money came slowly, debt grew faster. Interest does not wait for effort. Months blurred into years. I missed birthdays, funerals, life. 5 years passed without returning home, and still the debt stood tall. When I finally came back, exhausted and thin, nothing had changed. My brother had finished his education and worked at a small school. His income barely covered daily life. The debt was still mine. No one asked if I could continue. It was assumed. So I left again. This time, everything collapsed. Undocumented, caught, deported. I returned home broken and empty-handed. I found work at a small factory, low pay, no future. But debt does not care about dignity. Time passed. I turned 30. I wanted something normal, a family, a future. Every conversation ended the same way. They heard my story, they heard my family history, and they stepped away. I became guilty without committing a crime. As if survival was not punishment enough, my brother began gambling, borrowing money, taking secret loans, losing everything. The same type of debt I had destroyed myself trying to erase. I warned him. He ignored me. My father defended him and demanded more from me. Understanding was never offered. One night, the arguments exploded. Years of pressure spilled out in words that could not be taken back. And for the first time in my life, I felt something dangerous inside me. Not anger, emptiness. A few days later, while walking through town, I ran into someone I had not seen in years, a classmate named James. Back in school, his family struggled. Mine did not. Now the roles were reversed. James looked calm, confident, grounded. He asked one simple question: "How have you been?" And for the first time in my life, I told the truth.
I hadn't planned to tell James the truth. Not because I wanted to lie, because after years of carrying everything alone, honesty felt heavier than silence. We stood there for a moment, two men shaped by the same classrooms, but pulled into opposite lives. I studied his face, trying to reconcile the memory of a quiet boy with the confidence standing in front of me. He asked again, softer this time, "How have you really been, Alex?" And something inside me finally gave up. We sat at a small cafe nearby, nothing fancy, just a place where people passed through and didn't ask questions. At first, I kept it simple. "I've been working," I said, "trying to manage things." But James didn't push. He waited. So the story spilled out. The collapse, my father's mistakes, the debt, leaving home, years abroad, deportation, the factory job, my brother's gambling, the way responsibility had attached itself to me like a shadow. I didn't dramatize it. I didn't ask for sympathy. I just spoke. When I finished, I realized my hands were shaking. James didn't interrupt once. When I finally stopped, he leaned back and exhaled slowly. "That's a lot," he said. I nodded. "It never ends." James looked at me for a long moment, as if weighing something. Then he said it. "Come work with me." I laughed before I could stop myself. "You don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying." He told me about his company, modest at first, built slowly, no inheritance, just failure, risk, and patience. "I don't need another employee," he said. "I need someone I can trust." That word hit me harder than the offer itself. Trust. I hadn't felt trusted in years. Fear followed immediately. What if I fail? What if I become another burden? James smiled, not kindly, honestly. "You've been carrying everyone else. You're not fragile, Alex. You're exhausted." I didn't accept right away. That night, I lay awake replaying the conversation. Accepting help meant admitting I couldn't do it alone. It meant risking disappointment. It meant trusting life again. And life had taught me one clear lesson: everything you rely on can disappear. In the morning, my father complained about expenses. My brother slept through the day. Debt notices still sat on the table. Nothing had changed, except the possibility. 2 days later, I called James. "I'll try," I said. James didn't give me a title, didn't give me special treatment. He gave me work. Long hours, real responsibility, decisions that mattered. At first, I felt out of place. Everyone seemed confident, capable, certain. I felt like an imposter waiting to be exposed. But something strange happened. I learned quickly. I organized systems that were falling apart, noticed inefficiencies others ignored, stayed late without being asked. This wasn't new. I had been managing chaos my entire life. The difference was that here, it mattered. Weeks passed, then months. James started asking my opinion, listening, implementing my suggestions. Clients noticed. Revenue improved. One afternoon, James handed me a folder. "I want you to oversee this," he said. I looked at him. "That's not my role." "It is now." No ceremony, no speech, just trust, quietly given. Even as work improved, home remained heavy. My brother's debts grew. My father's health worsened. Every paycheck disappeared before I could feel it. I didn't tell James everything. I didn't want opportunity to turn into charity. So I carried it silently. Again. One evening after a long day, James asked me to stay behind. His tone was calm but serious. "I've been reviewing some things," he said. My stomach tightened. This was it. Instead, he asked, "Why didn't you tell me how bad it really was?" He had found out. The loans, the medical bills, the gambling debts. I tried to explain. He raised his hand. "I'm not angry," he said. "I'm concerned." I waited for disappointment. It never came. James didn't speak like a boss. He spoke like someone who understood poverty in a way money never teaches. "You've been surviving, not living," he said, "and you're doing it alone." I looked away. "I don't want to owe anyone." He nodded. "That's fair." Then he added, "But sometimes refusing help isn't strength, it's fear." The words landed quietly, painfully, truthfully. Over the next few months, my position grew. Not because I demanded it, because results demanded recognition. My income increased, not dramatically, but enough to breathe. For the first time in years, I slept without calculating interest in my head. For the first time, effort felt proportional to outcome. And for the first time, hope didn't feel dangerous. One evening, as we closed the office, James paused. "There's something we need to talk about soon," he said. My chest tightened. "Is something wrong?" "No, not wrong, just unfinished." He didn't explain, and I didn't ask. But that night, I felt it. Life was shifting again. Not violently, not suddenly, but the way it always does. Quietly.
For most of my life, I believed relief would arrive loudly, with celebration, with apologies, with some dramatic moment where everything finally made sense. I was wrong. Relief came quietly, so quietly that at first I didn't even recognize it. A few days after James mentioned there was something unfinished, he asked me to come into his office early. No urgency, no tension, just a calm request. I arrived expecting another discussion about work. Instead, he closed the door and gestured for me to sit. "Alex," he said, "I need you to listen before you react." That sentence alone made my chest tighten. He slid a folder across the desk. Inside were documents I recognized instantly. Loan statements, interest schedules, medical bills. My life on paper. "I didn't do this behind your back," James said calmly. "I did it with intention." My throat tightened. "What did you do?" I asked. He leaned forward slightly. "I cleared it." For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood. Cleared it. All of it. The debt that had followed me since adolescence, the numbers that haunted my sleep, the reason my life never fully began. "You what?" I whispered. He didn't repeat himself. He didn't need to. The documents spoke clearly. 0 balances, no interest, no collectors, nothing left chasing me. People imagine gratitude as an explosion, tears, hugs, words spilling out uncontrollably. But I felt none of that. I felt empty, not hollow, unburdened, like a weight had been removed after so many years that my body didn't know how to stand without it. "I didn't do this to save you," James said calmly. "I did it because you already saved yourself. You don't owe me loyalty. You don't owe me repayment. You owe yourself a life." I don't remember standing up. I don't remember leaving. I'd only remember sitting alone in my car afterward, staring at the steering wheel, unable to start the engine. And then it happened. Not loudly, not violently. I cried. Not from sadness, from release. For the first time since I was 15, there was no problem waiting for me at home. No calculation, no fear of tomorrow. Just quiet. We didn't tell my family right away. James insisted on one thing first. "Your father needs treatment," he said. "Not later, now." Arrangements were made. Doctors, medication, care. My father resisted at first. Pride is stubborn, especially when it has already been broken. But his body didn't argue. Slowly, his strength returned. Not his authority, not his old confidence. Something softer, something humbler. For the first time, he looked at me not as a solution, but as a son. My brother learned the truth eventually. He expected relief. What he received was silence. No celebration, no forgiveness speech, just facts. James refused to cover his gambling debts. "I'll help rebuild," he said calmly, "but I won't reward destruction." That boundary did what anger never could. For the first time, responsibility didn't slide toward me, and for the first time, I didn't reach to catch it. Our family didn't return to what it once was, and that was okay. We didn't rebuild wealth. We rebuilt honesty. Meals became quieter, conversations slower, expectations smaller. My mother smiled again, not because everything was perfect, but because nothing was pretending anymore. At work, my role solidified, not through titles, through trust. James treated me as an equal, not a rescued project. We built carefully, failed sometimes, learned always. For the first time, I planned beyond survival. I thought about the future without fear. I met someone unexpectedly. No dramatic timing, just a normal conversation that didn't end when my past came up. I told the truth. She listened. She didn't see debt. She saw endurance. And for the first time, my history didn't disqualify me from a future. People think strength is loud, that it demands recognition, that it ends with victory. But I learned something else. Strength is quiet. It's waking up every day and carrying what no one else will. It's continuing when no one notices. It's refusing bitterness when bitterness would be easier. I didn't win. I didn't conquer. I survived long enough to be seen. One evening, as we locked up the office, James stood beside me. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah. For the first time, yeah." He smiled. No words needed. Some people are born into ease. Others are born into struggle. And some are born into responsibility they never asked for. If you're carrying more than your share, if life feels like it's punishing you for mistakes you didn't make, understand this. Endurance is not invisible forever. Someone will see it, and when they do, it will change everything.